We at Jindal Steel are very, very clear and focused on diversity hiring at the leadership level.
Diversity of talent, whether it's in the form of age, whether it's in the form of educational background or gender, or let's say the state of domicile. It adds a richness to the talent pool of an organization because it contributes a lot in terms of ideas and thoughts.
Essentially, it is more about visibility creates velocity. We need to challenge mindsets, share stories, and really shape solutions around this.
Steel shapes more than infrastructure. Steel shapes opportunity. But if India is to move to becoming a $30 trillion economy by the year 2047, it cannot really get there if half its talent is on the margins. And just to give you an idea, manufacturing, steel in particular, women account for just less than 5% of the workforce. If that should tell you anything, it is that it isn't a question about whether equity matters anymore. It's about how soon we can institutionalize it. On this episode, yes, welcome to the Steel of India podcast. I'm Sheetal. It's called, by the way, Built Like Steel. We're going to cover how core sectors can shift from being legacy models into more inclusive, future-facing workplaces. So from representation to skilling to leadership traits and system-level changes, we're also going to figure out what it will take to unlock that full spectrum of India's talent. Joining us on the conversation today are Rajesh Nair, CHRO at Jindal Steel. And from him, we hope to understand how the company is reshaping or shaping, I should say, inclusive leadership, and certainly how it is building workplace parity into the organization's DNA. We are also joined by Shivani Hazari, and she is President and Group Head, Leadership Advisory at the Naveen Jindal Group. And from her, we hope to get some insights on talent pipelining, especially for leadership, women leadership, and also the definition of success in traditionally male-dominated sectors. We're also lucky to have with us Ruchi Anand. She is Senior Director, Talent and Learning Solutions at LinkedIn. And she brings with her a data-driven lens. And we are excited to learn more about hiring intent, access barriers, and certainly the kind of factors that are influencing the participation of women in core sectors. So as you can see, not really a conversation that's just going to dwell on gender. We're also going to be talking systems, we're talking leaders, leadership, and most certainly the kind of workforce that's going to take us to India at 100. Thank you so much to the three of you for being part of this podcast. And
Thank you.
welcome to our show.
Yes, thank
Happy
you.
to be here.
You know, Rajesh, got to start with you. We threw out a statistic over there, quite a staggering one. Less than 5% of steel workforce comprised by women. What's really driving this gap? Is it perception? Is it bias? Is it a combination of several other factors?
I'd like to address this question in a couple of parts. First, let's talk about diversity. Why is it important? Diversity of talent, whether it's in the form of age, whether it's in the form of educational background or gender, or let's say the state of domicile. It adds a richness to the talent pool of an organization because it contributes a lot in terms of ideas and thoughts. And women in particular bring along empathy and collaboration as skill sets, which matter a lot when it comes to organizational success. Right. So diversity is important. I think that's something that we need to agree on. Now let's look at the steel sector in particular and how is this sector very different from any other manufacturing sector. Now steel belongs to a heavy engineering group when you look at manufacturing sectors in India. Right. And if you look at integrated steel plant like Jindal Steel, typically, we are set up in areas which are very close to iron ores or coal mines, coal mines, and these are typically placed in rural or remote locations. There, forget about attracting women talent. Even attracting any kind of talent is extremely tough.
Right.
When it comes to women, I would say steel industry doesn't have any role models. It has been industry dominated by men. and therefore the policies, infrastructure largely has been created for men in the past. And at Jindal Steel, therefore, we need to do something very, very different. So here, what are we trying to do? We are trying to engage with the talent at the grassroots level by looking at engineering colleges, by looking at diploma schools, by looking at ITIs, and tapping the talent there, and then ensuring that the talent that we bring in stay in the organization, grow in the organization, provide them with mentoring, provide them with career frameworks and visibility to ensure that they stay and grow as leaders in the organization. So that's the intent of Jindal Steel.
Wonderful. You know, Ruchi, you have a vantage position. Data-driven insights is what we expect from you. Do women, or should I say, do enough women express a desire to be part of core sectors, and what are the typical bottlenecks along their journey?
Yeah, sure. In fact, if we look at data, clearly data showing us that there's been a 15% increase in women applying to roles in manufacturing and power and all these sectors. So that clearly shows that there is definitely intent, right? There is intent because we're seeing those applications come in. But what are the bottlenecks? I would just say it comes down to access and visibility. Now, I think, Rajesh brought up a good point on, role models, right? So relatable role models is something that is really required, because while women do have the intent to apply, really knowing what is the career path. Now, for example, we work with one DEI partner. They run this Women in Manufacturing Summit, and, people connect. And they shared one example with me when they did a road show in colleges and took one successful young head of, plant head, a woman plant head to the college. She had all girl students coming to her, trying to understand how is this career path really. So essentially, it is more about visibility creates velocity. So, I mean, to add to already what Rajesh has said in terms of what we need to create that environment where there is more access, but intent from a data point is definitely there, but we need to kind of create more sponsorship. We need to kind of create relatable role models. We need to show visibility in terms of what is the career path someone would have.
Right.
And I think it's not lack of aspiration, it's just lack of awareness. It is about how can we create, we need to challenge mindsets,
Right.
Share stories, and really shape solutions around this.
Yeah. Shivani, do companies say they want diverse leadership, but then default to legacy models? And if that is the case, I suspect it is the case, how does one break that pattern?
So this is an interesting question because everybody has these preconceived ideas. But interestingly, I'll talk about Jindal Steel. Let me just start by explaining what is leadership hiring. These are roles. The leaders have to focus on the progressive growth of the organization. They are driving performance. They are setting standards for governance. They are obviously the role model for the rest of the organization. And they are also the embodiments of the culture and values that the organization represents. We at Jindal Steel are very, very clear and focused on diversity hiring at the leadership levels for these roles, primarily because a lot of these objectives are met very positively. And it's not just an intent, it's actually in action. And I'll explain how. And I said this is a preconceived notion, and I'm very happy to take this opportunity to talk about it because in this organization, when we are looking at any leadership hiring, we do extensive talent mapping, and we are definitely putting the lens of inclusion there.
Okay.
We are ensuring that most of the roles that we are hiring for, whether it's in sales or marketing, operations, HR, finance, corporate communications, IT, legal, etc., we are including the diverse candidates in that pool. We are taking them into consideration. We approach them with the opportunity. More often than not, they come back to us asking us about what is the culture like, how is diversity treated in this organization. And that's a fantastic opportunity for us to talk to them about how things operate here. And most cases, what I've seen, when we've talked about our own experiences with them, it is absolutely reaffirming the fact that we are an equitable organization. We are conducive to diversity. Things like we have absolutely performance matrices driven by an equitable approach to the leaders. The leaders are given absolutely equal opportunities for growth.
Right.
There's no pay equity gap. All of this is, and also we have a voice which is heard. And I can say that today at our leadership level, the diversity percentage is better than what Rajesh and you talked about. It's at 9%. And we are hoping to take it up to at least 2025 in the coming year. At the board level, our diversity is much higher. We have around 33% representation of women board members. We also have a core advisory group which operates covering some services in the Jindal group, where we have reached the percentage at 50%.
Right. Well, Rajesh, shifts are required, clearly at the leadership level as well, if we are to make sure that we build these inclusive, long-lasting workplace cultures. What are the kind of shifts you identify when you take a look at the landscape we exist in today?
Sure. Let me start off with an example. In manufacturing industries, it's not rare to find a women employee coming to you and saying that my manager does not allow me to operate a piece of machinery because he feels that it is not a woman's job. And she's been told, no, it's good that you sit behind a table and work on MIs. This is a response that many women engineers get when they work with managers, and especially in industries which are not used to seeing too many women.
Right.
So what this essentially brings out is that there is an issue of unconscious bias, which is prevalent in many of these industries and even in steel.
Right.
And at Jindal Steel, what are we doing about it? We are planning to run a sensitization program for managers, a leadership training program for them to overcome this bias. So that, when they have women in their teams, they are people who can provide them with visibility, career paths, mentoring opportunities are something which we ask our managers to, get themselves involved in. And that is something I think the women need. So it goes beyond numbers. It's not something which is really nice to do. It is something which we need to, which is probably must do kind of a thing, wherein a manager feels that it's something that it makes good sense. And rather than a tick in the box kind of an activity, which many managers or many companies indulge in doing.
Right.
So it's not just about leadership driving this, it's about collective responsibility. And it's also a shift from having no opinion on diversity to actually advocating diversity with the full belief that this is something which will be useful for the organization. These are the mind shifts that we require to make this successful. And this is something which we are driving in Jindal Steel. So bottom line is, how do I shift away from an idea and an initiative called diversity to actually making diversity as an operating principle for success? I think that is where we are driving towards.
Fantastic. And I'm sure, Ruchi, you have seen skilling trends emerge with respect to women, especially in non-traditional sectors. So if you could tell us what these trends are and what must one scan the horizon for, to be prepared to welcome this new workforce.
Yeah, sure. So certainly what we're seeing is from overall, if I just talk about the high growth segments, automation, robotics, green energy, we're seeing more women enroll, over 22% as a data stat if you want to look at year on year. And if you talk about skilling, I would just say that even if you look at STEM skills, we have seen a 27% increase in women adopting STEM skills between 2023 and now. And on an average, it has been actually growing at about 29%. So if both from a perspective of, how many women are actually getting into these high growth segments, as well as their their ability and their, I would say, their willingness to learn new skills is definitely high. Even if you talk about AI in engineering, right? Even those kind of skills we're seeing, it's much higher than what we're seeing men take. So about 80%, and whereas men is 78%. So there is more adoption that is certainly there. What's required definitely is that if you look at what's on the horizon is really blended skills. And I think, Rajesh, you spoke about a lot around what are the skills that, women are really good at, So one is a good hybrid blended approach where strong technical skills with adaptability, collaboration, good leadership skills, empathy, all of this put together is definitely something that is organizations are also really looking for, right? Because today it's going to be more important. And as we look at a very skills first approach in hiring, what is required is that it's more on potential over pedigree. It's about how the person's ability to learn, to adapt, to grow faster is very, very important. And I just want to add to what Rajesh said earlier on your earlier point. I think the role of first line managers is by far the most important in making sure that once we have diverse talent, it's not about just bringing them in, but how do you make sure diverse talent thrives? Because even if you have to talk about not just when you're bringing them in, what skills they have, but how do you make sure what are the kind of skills you are enabling them with.
Right.
And that's why, these sensitization workshops and all of this makes such a huge difference because it needs to bring in, coming into the flow of work in terms of how this mindset shift really is required across. You can have great policies, but how do you kind of make sure it's there across the organization?
Right. And I love how the baton is being passed on. Rajesh spoke about a mindset shift. You're talking about leadership skills as one of the interdisciplinary skills that's required of people. Rajesh, you want to add something?
I want to add, I think we spoke about role models in the beginning. And I think it's the function or the responsibility of the managers is to ensure that he creates role models.
Right.
It's incumbent upon them to ensure that role models come up in the industry like ours, so that we have women looking at them and joining the industry. And this is something which we want to create in Jindal Steel, and we are already working on it.
Super. And the
So
baton,
I'll just add another point to this, that there are very, very far and few women in steel manufacturing. In other functions that I talked about, you'll find a fair representation to some extent. But there's one and two cases also. There are biases in the system that don't allow us. So when we talk about them being given a bit of sensitization, I think we are all jointly working in removing that unconscious bias that, she will not be able to do this, or the people around her will not accept her as a leader. We do hear these noises, but we are very consciously trying to bring them down.
Yeah.
And if I can give a positive spin in terms of, we're talking about data in terms of how it's, but I'm definitely saying because of, all the initiatives like you both have spoken about within Jindal, a lot of progressive organizations like Jindal, we're seeing on an average, the percentage of women go up in terms of women in the shop floor. On an average, it's now averaging around 8%, but it was, barely 5%. So, a lot of the efforts that are being spoken about are really already showing good results.
Right.
And also, I think we also spoke about how the industry has been historically male dominated. As a result of which, infrastructure, policies are all tuned to, not really tuned, I would not say tuned to men, but not tuned to women. Let me put it that way.
Right.
So there is a need to even review that and look at infrastructure seriously, especially in manufacturing locations. Policies which are, if you really want to bring in women in a large way into the industry, look at even policies which will support women and which probably are not so important when it comes to men. So we're talking about those kind of initiatives too.
Yeah. And we're already seeing some brilliant thought leadership over here with respect to what needs to be done. But speaking of leadership, you spoke about that element. So did you, Rajesh. Shivani, what are the traits that you see that are gaining in significance? And how does, more importantly, one make sure that women are factored into that next generation of leadership talent pipeline?
Again, that's something interesting, and particularly I'll again talk in the context of Jindal Steel, where we are preparing ourselves for the future. There's a very, very strong focus on driving operational excellence, innovation, inclusion. And this is something that we are all signing up for. And core values are represented by hunger, humility, and speed for action. So very clearly, for all the leadership hiring that we are doing today, we have obviously designed tools for assessment of leaders that we are assessing for the roles. We are looking at measuring their ability in their passion, their drive, their hunger, their humility, adaptability, communication, collaboration, decision-making. These are some of the traits that we are looking at the leaders. Of course, given that we are also not missing out on their age, experience, expertise, etc. So, as I said before, these are traits that we are generally going to find in women leaders. And it's not something that is so much unheard of. For me, yes, that assessment is very, very critical.
Right.
And this is something that the organization has developed over the last, I would say, 2 years maybe. So we are consciously driving these traits. Now, diversity leaders, we all would tend to agree that there is a tendency to have a more participative decision-making. The women leaders bring in more empathy. They're more resilient. We talked about some of these. I'm just repeating some of them. They tend to nurture the teams that they have. They tend to focus on culture, integrity. These are values that are very, very important to them. So it works well in the context of what traits we are seeking in our leaders. So we are absolutely open to looking at diversity. And I said the percentage is around 9%. I'd be more than happy to see it growing to 20 to 30% in the coming years.
Yes, and as they say, ghee shakkar. Because I think we are on course for that kind of growth, seeing as I think all the thinking is in place. But this is where we move into a segment that's about quick takes on some very important topics. Are you all ready?
Just one more point I'll add
absolutely.
to what we were talking about, what Ruchi mentioned about skilling. The sector, industry, is also moving towards a lot of adoption of technology, and a lot of innovation, digitization, automation is happening in the steel manufacturing. With this kind of a phenomena happening in the sector, when women are getting more and more skilled in those areas, we will see more women across the entire supply chain,
Right.
which is getting digitized. So there's definitely a lot of hope in the future.
Lovely. I like that optimistic note that we are about to wrap up the show with, but all in good time. You're not yet calling it a wrap. This is a little rapid fire round, but I suspect answers are not going to be that rapid also, because the first one, I'm going to start with you, Ruchi.
Sure.
One mindset shift that India needs to make if we are to institutionalize gender equity by 2047.
I would say that when we talk about driving equitable outcomes, diversity inclusion efforts require intention, work, and skill. All three put together. And I would say that the mindset shift really that's required for 2047 is, as we are already seeing, there is a lot of work intention and skill building with this, the kind of sensitization workshops we also spoke about. I think collectively focusing on that is going to be important, and moving from just approving to an improving mindset. It's not just about ticking the box on numbers, but how do we improve on, even if we are getting better, how do we get better at it?
Proving
to improving mindset.
To improving. Oh, nice. Rajesh, what about you?
I would say, I mentioned this earlier too. I think there's a managerial mindset issue, which we need to work on. And the biggest thing that managers need to believe is it's not just about can women do it. It's about believing that women can do it better. So I think that's the shift that is required.
I hear you echo that sentiment, Shivani.
No, but I
what
also
about you?
believe we've seen it around. We talked about role models. I think we are so used to seeing that one woman who did this, and we applaud that, and we are celebrating that. I would want it to move to many women doing that.
Yeah. And I'll come back to you. This is where we make a bold prediction for 2047. You need to complete this. In 2047, women in steel will be?
women in steel will not just be breaking glass ceilings, but building plants and exporting green steel to the world.
Lovely. Rajesh?
The green steel idea has been stolen. So, but I would say that by 2047, I would see women heading steel industry as CEOs and certainly as plant heads. And the stolen green steel idea, because they will be driving the transition into green steel, and which will pave the path for reduction in the carbon footprint, which will become critical as we move towards the middle of the century.
I would definitely want them to outshine the men in steel today. But the way we are moving towards, and I talked about it, how the supply chain is changing and transforming itself, it will facilitate women to come into the workforce and be at equal measure. So we definitely would want to see more women shining.
Yeah. Hold that thought, Shivani, because I'm going to start this next one with you. One piece of advice that you would give to the next generation of women leaders in the industry.
Be bold, be confident, demonstrate your resilience, take on challenges, and make it better for the next woman.
All right, Rajesh?
I would say break the steel barriers. But also recast the industry through your empathy, collaborative style, creativity, and leadership vision.
I love that idea. Recast the industry. That's a powerful phrase, right?
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Really, I want to kind of take that. Good one.
Yeah.
All right. So, I would say I'll build on both. Pay it forward. Firstly, I mean, because we've been talking a lot about relatable role models, I think the power each woman has, when she steps into this role, that she's not just doing this for herself or her family, but the ripple effect is huge. So continue to pay it forward, because we'll then have the audacious vision that you actually said that will all come true.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And this one, I don't know, is tough because you've said there's been an absence of role models, but still, a woman leader or a woman that you admire in the industry.
Many, it's difficult to give one name because I feel I'm a product of, all the investment that's happened to me by great women leaders around me. But of course, names like Indra Nooyi, women who've actually been very audacious,
right.
Even if they come from whatever humility, but have the courage to actually build vision and values together.
Right.
I don't know. I think the answers will be quite similar. Indra Nooyi, you talk about Alina Nair.
Right.
I think even our own finance minister, for that matter. I mean, they are leaders. They are leaders, may not be really from the industry, but women leaders who can make it big.
Sure.
I'll definitely say Leena Nair, because I've been following her for some time, and she did demonstrate building up the cause on diversity at Unilever and also now at Chanel. And there's a very high EQ that she carries, a very empathetic leader. I heard one of her interviews where she said, I know the names of all my employees. Yeah. And this is at Chanel, a new organization that she stepped into. And this was the first endeavor to get to know people. So these are those differentiators that really stand out.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a big task.
I'm sure. A leadership style, Shivani, that defines who you are.
Collaborative. I believe in working with people, taking them along, and want to see them taking on my role.
I would say collaborative and developing the team.
Okay, all right.
To a certain extent, wherein making myself redundant.
Important point. Ruchi?
Absolutely. I would say for me also is focusing on collective growth. And so then maybe it comes back to being inclusive around everything that we do, so that we are able to kind of move forward and everyone grows together.
Yeah, wonderful. And I'm sure all of you have had these inflection points in your career, right? One moment that your life could have gone either way. Ruchi, any such moment for you?
So I would say, like I said, it's tough to think about just one, but yeah, I do feel that inflection point came in when the moment I realized that I had to work on overcoming my self-limiting beliefs. And I could only do this thanks to mentors, sponsors, and advocates around me.
Right. Yeah.
So.
In my case, I would say if you look at my career, it's a blend of sales, marketing, and HR. So after 18 odd years in sales and marketing, I shifted to HR.
Oh, okay.
So that has been a big shift for me. I mean, got into a zone which is extremely unfamiliar, uncomfortable to start off with. And I think that would be one point which I would like to remember and mention.
See,
it.
defining.
Yeah.
I would also agree with Ruchi. There have been many such points. I don't know if that talks about the journey of diversity candidates. But each time that I have pushed myself out of a comfort zone and taken on something which was unknown, untested, that has always proven to be the sort of a watershed moment for me.
In your life. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we surprise ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's what it is.
You approach it with a degree of fear, apprehension, but that's the point that you have to be bold, be more confident about your capabilities. And a lot of times the people around you, your family, your mentors, they have more conviction in your abilities, but you kind of go with their support and their intuition and then take on those roles.
What lovely nuances have come through in this conversation. But one last question. One underrated trait in women leaders.
I would say empathy, and I'll add one more to it because we do it all the time, balancing multiple priorities.
Right.
And we do it with
Style.
with style, with ease, although it's multitasking all along.
Yeah. Ruchi, what about you?
I'm just trying to think, when you were saying, maybe it's like, to me, what comes to my mind is audacity, because I spoke about even that courage and conviction. So maybe that trait of being audacious is something that's underrated. Yeah.
I would say collaboration. I feel women are able to bring teams together, diverse teams, and possibly create solutions more effectively and faster, perhaps, as compared to their counterparts.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. To our viewers, as you've seen, this conversation has shown us that inclusion is not a soft metric. It is a structural necessity. In fact, in sectors like ours, it can also be a test of the imagination, a test of intent, and certainly a test of execution. So from skilling pathways to leadership traits, we've also, broken a few barriers in thinking. We've had some bold predictions from our team here. We figured out that equity is not a favor. It is a force multiplier. Thank you for watching the Steel of India podcast. We'll be back soon. You stay strong, stay inspired, and certainly stay built for the future. Thank you so much to our panel.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Such a pleasure.